Let's take a look at space attributes next. Go into the template projects and select scheme number 3 and duplicate it. Put your name in front of it and put it into your project. And proceed. This is a building that has more spaces laid out on an actual floor plan, and we're going to use this to demonstrate how to manage attributes and reporting and other functionality that's possible. So let's go inside the building by opening up the tree on the left and jumping to the first floor. And we see a building with the spaces laid out. And on the right side, if you go under Space Attributes, open up this triangle. Right now it's set to no color coding. Let's look at departments. Pull down to departments. And you'll see it color coded by department. So for example, you can select an entire department by selecting the color, the medical admin building area there. It's selecting the spaces that relate to that department. So I just selected these by going to the right side there. And if they're selected multiples like this, you can also double click it and it actually lists the spaces that were selected and gives me the total square meter area, in this case 101 square meters. This can be customized. The department color coding, there's a setting for customizing that. But we can also select another color code down here, room code, for example. So this is color coded by room code. And the way that you do this is you go into settings, right here. If you're in edit mode and you have the right to edit this scheme, this is the one that I duplicated and made my own, so I have a right to edit it. You go under General Settings and Department, and you'll see the custom departments that were set up here. These can be manually entered in here or edited right here as well too. And that would start showing up in the floor plans and anywhere else there's a report. You can also select a different color. So for example, this pink here, you can select from the matrix here or just go into a full color wheel and change the coloring of that department. That's for departments. If you go to custom settings, then there are many other settings that you can control here, including at the building level and at the space level and even at the equipment level. But if you go to space attribute groups, you'll see that room codes and space types and occupancy zones are populated. The other ones are all blank, so you can create a new category here. If you go into room code, you see room codes already color coded. There are many options there. Or you can create a brand new space attribute. So if we go to attribute group 4, for example, and we say, call this, you type at the top, floor finish, and type in values here. Let's say wood, tile. Just leave it at 2 for now. And scroll to the bottom and say save. It will become available on the pull down next time I load that floor plan as a floor finish. At this level too, the spaces can also be turned into bubble diagrams. So this is already resolved obviously, but if we have a bubble diagram version of this exact floor plan, more at the concept level, you can start showing concepts of how the spaces are laid out, and that can still report all the areas and the department color coding that we looked at earlier. So here are the bubble diagrams, and these can also be edited and moved as well. You can grab a space and move it out. That's obviously changing the floor plan down below, but imagine this is not a resolved plan yet and we're trying to resolve how these spaces work with each other. The other thing you can do is for controlling adjacency. So if you select two spaces, let's say this one here, and shift select the next one, they're both selected, and you double click on it, you'll get an adjacency selection here, which could also be customized, but we can select, it needs to be adjacent, immediately adjacent to each other, and save that. And then on the right side, if you click on space relationship, a line appears between those two elements. So as you stretch them, it maintains that adjacency requirement. And in this way, you can select multiple spaces like this and start defining rules of how they need to be adjacent to each other. This can be manually done directly in the spaces, or there's also a way to export with Excel and resolve those adjacencies. If we turn these back again from bubble diagrams to normal again, as we resolve the plan, either directly in Onuma or as it gets exported to other applications like Revit and gets resolved, you can import it back into Onuma, and you get a floor plan that looks like this, with a layout complete. We obviously messed it up by moving these spaces around, but let's move them back into position. And the adjacency obviously is not correct anymore, but you can see that this is working out, and for whatever reason, if that needed to be next to the other space, you can still say, okay, well, we need to really be out here. You can also take this and move spaces from floor to floor. So we have a multi-floor building, a first floor and a second floor. If we select, let's say, these two spaces here, well, let's make the lab go upstairs. The lab and these two spaces is getting too crowded on the first floor, so we're going to take these, select them, double click them, and there's a transform button. You can actually even move them to another building if you have multiple buildings on the site. This one only has one building and it has 2 floors, or 3 floors, first, second, and roof. So let's move it to the second floor and select Move Selected Spaces. There's a lot more you can do with spaces, but that's the main functionality of moving, color coding by different attributes, setting up adjacencies, and then moving spaces to a second floor. Here's the second floor layout with those spaces now moved away from the first floor into the second floor.